How y'all doing?
Good.
Good, good.
You guys ready? Okay, we have co-defensive coordinator ShaDon Brown and defensive secondary coach. So, questions for Coach Brown?
So ShaDon, start with your group at corner right now. Most of your starters are gone, though not all. So just give an overview of what you're dealing with right now.
Yeah, so we've got 7 guys working in that group right now in that room. A few of those returners, obviously, that are really doing a great job. Andrew Wilson Lamp is a returner who played down the stretch for us, who's made a big jump this offseason. Really proud of his development. Malachi Ruffin is a young man who stepped in last year when we had some injuries that played a lot for us. He's back. He's a guy that's played a lot of football on specialty teams as well as on defense. And then we got, obviously, Jacoby Spells is a guy who was a young player last year, a freshman that was thrown into action early, and he was kind of a little bit of a trial and error by fire out there in some games, but he's gotten bigger and he's gotten stronger this offseason, and looking forward to him making a big jump. And then Jalen Shelton is a young man who got here late last year. He arrived in July of last season prior to training camp. Maybe I think he was 7 days out prior to camp. So he came in and he was a little behind everybody else from a developmental standpoint, not only physically but mentally. And last year was a redshirt year for him. He's back this year, obviously. And then you look at the transfers and the newcomers. Montre Miller, transfer from Kent State, is in the fold now with us. He's been here, got here in January. He's doing a great job learning the schemes. He's changed his body. I think he arrived, he was 173 pounds. He's around 188 to 190 already in a short amount of time. So Mike Joseph and his crew and Haley and Nutrition has done a great job with transforming his body. And then Josiah Jackson's a freshman player that's come in from recruiting in the 23 class, who's done a great job picking everything up. Things are really fast for him right now, but he is improving. Today he was able to flash a little bit for us today, so I'm pleased with his progress. And that's the guys kind of rounding out the corner group that I feel like have a chance to be on the grass for us in the fall.
Ruffin bounced around a little bit last year. He's played some safety, I know, as well as some corner. First of all, 100% corner now, and what do you see out of Malachi?
Yeah, Ruffin is what I call steady Eddie. Ruffin can play multiple positions. He's a coach on the field. He's played college football now, I think, 6 years. So he knows the scheme. We could move him without training him up. We could move him to a new position in the secondary, and he could fit right in. He's doing a great job. He's having to get into more of a leadership role. I'm so proud of that young man for one simple reason. You guys don't know him as well as I know him, but when I first got here 3 years ago, 2 years ago, going into my 3rd year, he was very quiet, very introverted, never talked, and now the game of football has given that kid confidence. He walks around with a different aura about him now, and that's really cool to see a young man that you see the game of football really changed, his demeanor and his confidence about going out and being able to attack the world and whatever he chooses to do, but also help us be better on the football field. And he's done a great job, and I'm proud of him.
You mentioned speed. That was something you wanted to improve in the cornerback position. Are you seeing it?
Yes, I think all those guys have the ability to run. I think Andrew Wilson Lamp is probably a 10'5", 10'6", 100-meter guy. Jalen Shelton is right there step for step, as well as Malachi Ruffin. Those 3 arguably are the fastest guys on our team. So they're learning how to use that speed. I think track speed and football speed are 2 different things. And so some guys, really fast on the track, that's running a straight line. But on the football field, you have to be able to change direction and move with the play. So those guys are learning to play fast as their times show.
How much of a jump has Jalen made? I know he's a big guy, can play a lot of different positions. Where is he at now?
Yeah, he's made a huge jump. The first place he's made a jump is he's changed his body. He's over 190 at 6'1". He can really run. He's made a jump, I think, in his just overall physicality. when he got here last year. He was undersized, underdeveloped, coming from junior college. Didn't show a lot of physicality, and I think now, because he has improved his strength, he can help us in areas. He can be. I think he'll help us on special teams, and I think he'll be able to go in the game and play for us at corner because he's physically ready. And a lot of times you think, well, corners don't need to be very strong. The guy that just left here, Bryce Ford Wheaton, was 6'3", 224, I think, at the combine. That's a big guy going down the field and jockeying for position. You see corners get knocked to the ground. Well, that's play strength. That's what I call play strength. Not weight room strength, being able to play strong. And so that's where he's improved, and look forward to seeing him make a big jump this fall.
In terms of throughout the offseason, whether it be recruiting or transfer, Neil's talked a lot about the secondary still being a spot that may get addressed when the portal is back open. How do you think the program did, I guess, as an evaluation to this point, and then what you maybe still want to see in terms of adding pieces that were not there last year?
Yeah, we've added 2 pieces in the secondary with Keyshawn Cobb at safety, and then we added Montre Miller. We're still, out there hunting and looking for good players. We're not going to turn down a good player that can help us win. And I think right now we've done a good job with the pieces that we've added, not only on the field but off the field. They're good guys in the locker room, and they work hard on the grass. But we will add a couple more pieces as we get to this next portal window. We will add a couple more pieces to the secondary.
Are there particular facets of the secondary that you're really looking
We will probably add at least one corner and maybe one safety. It all depends on talent. We won't just take one to take one. We won't take a body. We'll take a guy that makes us better and gives us the best chance to win.
Obviously, getting him here as soon as possible will be helpful.
Yes, any guy that we bring in up to this point, the target date would be mid-May to get those guys here, get them acclimated, and start working out with our strength staff and learning the scheme.
On the Spells front, because he almost became a household name amongst fans a little bit with the Virginia Tech game. How much better do you think he can be, and the sky being the limit for him, because he already has an impactful play early in his career, and you're talking about how, it was almost before he was ready to make that type of play.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot different coming from high school football, coming to play in Power 5 football out there on the island at corner. And I thought last year he had some plays where he flashed and some plays where he didn't. And that's what I call growing pains. That's any freshman at any position is going to have those growing pains. It's just the secondary, all right? The secondary and the O-line are really the same, right? One guy can make a mistake, and all you guys see it and can write about it, and fans and parents see it, right? If they're playing a position inside, whether it's defensive line or linebacker, nobody ever sees that. They don't see those mistakes. So at corner, it's really magnified. So he had some mistakes last year, and some of those mistakes were just physically not being ready to compete at that level consistently over and over and over, doing it over and over and over. And I think what he's done this offseason, he's really changed his body. He's changed his work habits to be able to play at this level. And I'm starting to see that out there with him in practice, just being able to control his body and his play speed and play strength. I think he's the guy that's going to make a huge jump, and you'll see that in the fall.
With that said, for the young corners, and now you got Jackson as another true freshman, how hard is it for him? You mentioned a little bit of that. And then obviously he's got a brother coming in. How quickly can you get him up to speed when he gets here in the summer?
Yeah, Josiah's done a great job. Josiah's learned a lot, I think, of just about the game because it's so fast. At this level, the game's so fast. The people are fast, but the plays are moving even faster because the play call's coming in. But he's done a great job of playing through a mistake. That's probably been the best thing that I've seen out of him. Making a mistake, the next play, not repeating the same mistake, but keeping his confidence. He's done a great job of that. He's going to need the off season this summer to get bigger and continue to get stronger. And then with his brother coming in, all right, in the summer, I think he's got the speed. All right, he's got the speed to be able to run with any guy we got. When he came here, I think he was a 4.55, when he ran for us twice on the clock. So he's a step faster probably than Josiah. And so I don't know how fast he's going to be able to pick it up because he's going to be here behind everybody else. But I know the skill set is there. In particular, being able to run.
You ever coached twins before? Is it a
Never
challenge?
coached twins. Never had
to that?
twins ever.
You'll be able to pick them out?
I will be able to pick them out. They're not identical, so we'll be able to pick them out.
A lot of talk from different defensive guys about getting simpler, just going back to basics. I think AJ's quote was, "If we think, we stink." What's your thoughts on that, about just becoming a simpler, more basic football defense?
Yeah, I think this offseason, one of the things we wanted to do is go back and just get fundamentally better. And fundamentally, and when you talk about fundamentals of defense, it's alignment, it's stance, it's key, your responsibility, it's getting off of blocks, it's tackling. And that's where we've really emphasized as a defense since we got back in January. Those have been focal points, and we have drilled and done things with and without pads from January all the way up to this point, and we've stayed consistent with that, and we're not going to change. And I think sometimes as you get into the season, you maybe lose some of your fundamental things that you've worked on, because if you don't do it, you lose it, right? And so we just went back to the basics of football and trying to get better at those fundamental things and put more emphasis on that than scheme.
What do you think the number one lesson is that the returning defensive players can take out of last year?
Well, I think the number one lesson that you can learn is, if you don't make plays on the football in the deep part of the field as a defensive back, a game can get away from you in a hurry. And then, just your effort, you got to be relentless to the football. If you watch us last year through the second half of the season, I thought we got a lot better on defense, and one of the reasons being is we got more aggressive play calls, and I thought that allowed us to play a little faster than we had previous up to that point. And so I think the takeaways would be, you got to make plays on the deep balls in the deep part of the field, and then being relentless as far as your effort and getting off of blocks and the tackling. That's why we went back and made that an emphasis from the starting point. From last year, we kind of switched gears mid-season and kind of said, hey, we got to get better at these things. We started that in January, and we're not coming off of it.
On Saturday, Aubrey Burks talked about, because there weren't really veterans in the secondary last year, it felt like communication was an issue. And then he talked about even they didn't feel like they were a group until partway through the year. As the coach, what can you do to remedy that here in the spring?
Well, I think last year, you had one returning guy that had played, and so he goes down the 12th play of a huge ball game at Pitt, and that guy's an NFL talent. And now you're out there with a bunch of guys that have never played. And some of them had played college football but hadn't played here. And so I think there's a trust factor. In anything you do and working together as a unit, there has to be some trust, and that's something that we didn't have. And it was trial by fire a little bit, and we started to gain that through the second half of the season. I think you saw that last 3 or 4 games. We played better in the back end. I think the thing that how you remedy that is hopefully you got returners, guys playing together. I don't know how you can remedy it if you got new pieces. We've got some pieces back. So naturally we should be better in that aspect because we've got some guys who've played and have played together.
Do you see any of those returners specifically stepping out as the leaders of this group?
Yeah, I think Aubrey Burks is a guy that comes to mind right offhand that's really stepped up his leadership skills and being more vocal. I think also Malachi Ruffin is a guy that is a lot more vocal than he was last year. And I think also to be a leader, and a lot of times to be able to lead from the front, you got to be able to make plays. And it's a lot easier to lead when you're a playmaker. And Aubrey and Malachi's made some plays, so now they feel the comfortability to be able to step out and lead.
To that end, because Aubrey also talked about how, and you mentioned it, once Charles went down, there was that void of a veteran. He thinks maybe that was the reason why there was a lacking of leadership maybe last year. Off of the feeling this year, having more returners, having maybe a better gelling of groups, and him even stepping up. You don't want to wish injuries, but they always happen. Is this group better equipped to handle something like that and not have it unravel if somebody does go down?
I think so, because I think we've got a lot more guys back. Even the backups are back this year, especially at safety. So that really remedies some of that. I think one of the things we did with having injuries is you was able to get guys some game reps to create natural depth now. So a guy like Jacoby Spells, who was not a starter in the first ball game when we had injuries, he played. So now he's been in a Big 12 football game. Malachi Ruffin the same way. Caleb Coleman, who's a guy at safety who came in for us and finished the game once Aubrey went down versus Oklahoma State and played winning football and was able to help us win that game to beat Oklahoma State there in the last ball game. So those are game reps that you can't duplicate any other way other than putting them out there on the grass in a game. And so, sometimes injuries are bad, but they also can be good if you can use them in the developmental phase for a young player.
ShaDon, speed, stopwatch speed, all that stuff, that's great, but not knowing what to do with it, you can be fast in the wrong spot, and fast if you had control, whatever. What does it take to coach people to harness their speed and to direct it and channel it the right way so it's fast, but it's also under control?
Well, I think part of the battle is, where's your eyes? What's your job? I think having the knowledge of what you're supposed to do allows you to play more under control and have your body in the correct positions, as opposed to everything being a reactionary movement. Y'all have heard me say this before. If your feet are panicked, I know you don't know what you're doing. The more confidence you have and the more knowledge, the faster you can play. Maybe not on a stopwatch, but you can play fast, and that's what we call football or play speed. And so just having the knowledge, I think, is the key to that. And then you get that obviously through repetitions and having been out there on the grass in a game. That obviously gives you the confidence, and the game really slows down. You hear coaches use that cliche, the game slows down. Well, that's why, because you got more knowledge.
Did coaches turn back the clock a little bit? Like you've traveled the ladder in your career from Cumberland's or places like that, Campbellsville, and I would imagine some of the stuff you're talking about seems elementary, but also kind of necessary. Maybe sometimes when it's high-level major conference, people overlook that or forget it too. Does it ever strike you that the job kind of maybe it changes, but in essence, it's kind of the same?
Football is we make it really complicated as coaches. Football is no different. When I was a high school head coach, blocking, tackling, getting off of blocks, running the ball, those are football fundamentals. Catching the ball, throwing it, right? That doesn't change from youth football, middle school, high school, college, pros. If you do it, you'll be better at it, and you always get what you emphasize. And so anything you do, if you emphasize it, you'll get results out of it. And so sometimes you get where you want to make sure the schematics are right and the pieces are right because of things you're seeing on offense as a defensive coach. But sometimes the fundamental things that you go back and look and you go, man, if we were better with our hand placement there, if we were better with our eyes there, if we were better with our ball foot up on a tackle, well, those are all fundamentals. And so your schemes will be better if your fundamentals are better. And so that's, I think, to answer your question, fundamentals don't change at any level of football.
You ever go back to that stuff? Revisit old notebooks or coaching stuff that you might have picked up in smaller divisions or even high school?
I do. I go back to some of those things, and I look back at stuff every year, and I think every year you got to look at it as a clean slate, look at it as a player as a clean slate. Don't ever assume that he knows or he's great at this or great at that. Go back to a clean slate and build from the bottom up to try to get that player to where he's game ready. And I think that's what we've tried to do with this entire football team is go back and reset and get everybody game ready from a fundamental standpoint.
Something Neil has talked about a lot is giving up too many explosive plays. Does that come back to what you're talking about, fundamentals and just knowing where to be and how to use your speed and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, a lot of times explosive happen because of a missed tackle. There's a ball thrown the flat, you miss a tackle, and it goes from being a 5-yard gain to a 50-yard gain. Well, that's a fundamental. Explosives happen because a guy doesn't get off a block in his gap, and he's out of his gap because he didn't use his hands. Well, getting off a block is a fundamental, and so that creates explosives. And then obviously you have the explosives where somebody busted a coverage, all right, did the wrong thing. Those are different, right? But the fundamental things, if you go back, 8 out of 10 explosive plays are going to be a fundamental issue. It's not a schematic issue.
Is it hard to improve those fundamentals when you can't tackle like you used to? I mean, you guys haven't tackled a ton this spring, and that's just the rule. But is it hard to improve there?
It is definitely hard to improve. It's kind of like your golf swing, right? If you go out, some of you guys who try to play golf, if you never work on driving, you always work on your short game, are you going to be good at the drive? Probably not, right? So you can't tackle every day. Like the old days, you tackled as much as you want, right? And now the way the rules are set, you try to tackle with bags, and you try to tackle technique and tackling posture. But there's no substitute for being able to go body on body and taking a ball carrier to the ground. And we do that as much as the rules allow us, but everybody else is playing with the same rules as well. So I'm not going to make an excuse that because of the rules, we're not a great tackling defense. Everybody's got the same rules, and we got to coach those fundamentals better than everybody else to be great at it.
Right now it's about getting better and about you guys, but at some point you have to transition to a really difficult season opener against a very good team in their place. When does that begin to ratchet up and the sense of urgency with your guys take place?
Well, I think there's a sense of urgency every day because our head coach is going to make sure we have a sense of urgency every day. But I think right now we're working on us. We won't switch gears to Penn State until the summer. We've got plenty of time to get ready for that one and our schedule. But right now we're worried about West Virginia, and that's our every day. It's us against ourselves, and trying to make each other better and be more competitive as a football team. And that's where our focus is right now. We don't talk about Penn State at all. We got plenty of time. We don't talk about our Big 12 opponents. We're just staying in the moment and being where your feet are is kind of our mantra. And right now it's spring football, and that's we don't have to play anybody, and we're going to be 0-0, and we're just trying to win the day.
What's the benefit of having continuity within the defensive staff? Because I think you guys have all been here at least 3 years like yourself.
Yeah, I think continuity in defense staff is big because we kind of know the strengths and weaknesses of each coach. I think it also allows us to be able to be transparent and bounce ideas off of each other, or try to make suggestions to each other to make each coach better. I think whenever you can have that, this defensive staff has probably been the best staff that I've been around as far as guys being able to coach each other up and not take it personal. And also guys being able to feel free in the room to make suggestions, or say, hey, what about doing it like this? And I think that's positive. It's healthy. This really is an ego game, and more than you guys would know. But the thing that I like that Coach Leslie has done is he's made that room inclusive, which allows everybody to stay together. And we're not going to be better if we're not together, right? So we're going to stay together and be tight and be back to back and keep fighting, and we'll be better.
To that end, with a bad year last year, some programs would clean house.
Mm-hmm.
What did it mean for Neil to, very directly say that he still believes in all you guys and support you guys, and obviously all you guys are still here? Just what did that mean for your head coach to have that confidence?
Yeah, it means a lot. This is a results-based business, and we all get that. We're all big boys, and we get paid well to do this job, and we understand that. But I think whenever you start to just fire guys like some people do, what you do is you send a message that it's always somebody else's fault, and it's all of our fault, and we've got to get better. We've got to be better. Coaching and playing. And I think as you start to look across the country, I think, and I always look back to people that have just gotten a lot better. You look at Tulane, they were 2-10 the year before. They didn't fire anybody, and they turned it around and won, I think, the Sugar Bowl. All right, and I think sometimes we get excited and we want to jump the gun because that's the right negativity sells in y'all's business, right? And so if you fire somebody, y'all get more clicks, all right? Or if you write an article about firing a coach, we get more clicks. But sticking with the guy's like, oh, that's boring, right? So I think sticking with us tells us a lot. It tells us a lot that he has trust in us. Also tells those players that that the head coach has confidence in their coach, and hopefully that leads to better results. I promise you this: we didn't forget how to coach. Go back to 20 and go back to 21, all right? And before I got here, the school that I was at previously, we were 17th in the country in pass defense, all right? So I didn't forget how to coach, all right? So I got to coach better last year, but I promise you I didn't forget how to coach. So we'll be better, and that goes for all those guys in that room. We didn't forget how to coach because we wasn't writing those articles in 21 that the defense wasn't good, right? So I promise you we didn't forget how to coach. It's the same guys, and we're coaching just as hard. We've got to adjust some things that we're doing because of players and how we coach them, but we'll get better, I promise you.
Okay, anything else from Coach? All right, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, guys.